Good morning. Today is September 2nd, 2020. I'm Ishan, Moovweb CTO. I have with me Ivan, our Director of Engineering. He's going to walk us through our twice a month product updates on the Moovweb XDN. Ivan, take it away.
Thank you, Sean. Yes, hello everybody. So as customary, let's go through to our upgrades on the packages, update on the packages. 2 weeks ago we were at 2.1.0 and now we are at 2.6.1. We'll talk about the improvements and fixes, and then we also upgraded. We issued 2 minor versions and a patch for version 1 of the XDN. Regarding new improvements,
I just want to highlight there for
sure
for folks. If you weren't there for 2 weeks ago, we talked about how the new version 2.0 is out, but we are not forcing people to upgrade. So you could still be on 1.x, and that's why we're keeping the parallel track of 1.x. Sorry, keep going, Ivan.
No, thank you for the call out. I feel that that's an important part of the of XDN. We do not force people to upgrade, even from the older versions than this that we have here. Like, so somebody could be running an 1.2 or 1.20, whatever it is, and the project as it was deployed is going to just continue running as it was deployed at the time where it was tested and deployed last time. So I feel it's important to call it out. So regarding we have 2 new router APIs. First one is a compute. It adds a general mechanism so that you can calculate any response in the serverless. In general, we use this already for our framework plugins, where we let off, give a chance to the serverless running these other frameworks, to the frameworks on top of XDN to render pages. But in this case, this is a general mechanism now that you can, for example, in this example that we're showing here, you can at the moment of a cache miss, right? You can get the destination where you want something to be redirected. You can get it from an API rather than having that hard-coded and built at or calculated at the time of the build. So that opens a host of different things that you can do. We added also a static API. It's meant to serve a directory of static assets. Essentially just say what is the directory, what is the cache. You can filter out, and you can just decide to serve some extensions, for example, or some globs. It just follows the general glob pattern. We also added a timings API. So this is a common request. How do we know, what is the time that anything in the serverless part of the project takes? And while we give detailed metrics on the XDN part, we don't. Your project is has its own particularities that we don't know how to measure. And then so now you have a way to measure this, and then we will automatically pick this up, and we will through this API, and we will inject it into an XDN user T, so user timings header, response header, so you can see this in all your responses. But you can also see this in the access logs that you have available, that you can read from if you're an XDN enterprise. So all the access logs, it means everything that has hit the edge infrastructure that you have on XDN of your project. We are now also just a bit of improvements on the developer experience. We prevent unreachable routes. So it's sort of like unreachable code. Previously, we used to allow to, if you look at the example here, the fallback is above the use next routes. So the fallback would always respond. It would never give a chance to next routes to execute. Now, if you do this, you will get a build time error that says you know, your fallback, your routes are unreachable. Don't put anything behind fallback. So you'll be forced, especially when you deploy. That will be actually a hard error on deploy. It's a warning when you run, but it's a hard error on deploy, and you'll be forced to, you know, make this correct this. Other improvements, there were two Nuxt improvements around service worker. It's now added by default in the olden Nuxt stubs that we create from the template, and then we now support it in the development mode. So when you're in local development, you now in your Nuxt project, the service worker is supported and works as expected. Regarding performance and profiling, so we already talked about the timings API, but we also added we refined our API around caching so that you can turn on and off the cache, especially in the edge, which improves performance, especially with slow backends, where when we expect things from backends that may be cached and they're slow, there is a lot of queuing. So you can turn this off now when you know that you don't need any kind of queuing and request call lessons. Regarding developer experience, we have improved the edge emulation. When you're running locally, you now have calculated XDN client IP, although that one is always, you know, 127.0.0.1. You have geolocation headers, user agent derived headers as well. These are the standard XDN headers like device, vendor, is it the bot or not flag, and then the browser type. Finally, we used to capture only console. We used to capture the output from the console.log, .debug, .info.error, etc. Now we have moved that to a level below that, and we capture the standard out and standard error during the service log streaming. So now, if you use something like Consola, you will see the output correctly streamed to the developer console. Regarding fixes, all of these are actually related to Nuxt. So rather than me just reading it off, there we fixed the source maps and rewrites redirects in 9.5, and then the last two are context params were not defined, and the last one was actually very interesting. It's the dynamic routes have to be ordered before the predefined routes, and so there was an issue there that wasn't guaranteed as always. So that's fixed now. Regarding XDN documentation, we have updated a lot of guides, caching, production, split testing, etc. And we added two new guides, performance and cookbook. Performance guides, it's currently talks about the new performance API, timing API, and this request call essence improvements. We also added a new reference, which is the limits, where we talk about the limits on the URLs, request headers, response headers, size of the response body, etc. You can see we have updated Spartacus framework guide, and then there were many other minor edits and fixes as well. Finally,
Ivan, I just want to jump in
Sure.
here on the previous slide. So I'd be remiss for not pointing out all this documentation is on developer.moovweb.com. The content of the guide, if you go to the previous update 2 weeks ago, it's all open source. You can actually contribute if there are any edits or fixes. We've already had outside contributors fix typos and other key things that weren't matched, like a message from the command line was slightly different from what was actually saying in the documentation. The second thing I want to call out is the first bullet point, which is the performance and cookbook guides are really important and worth reading. Especially if you're just getting started, I'd say the cookbook is really the thing that kind of shows off what the XDN can do. And I highly recommend reading that guide. It's really kind of overdue. And then after you're trying to improve your performance, that would be the next one I would read. So I highly recommend going to developer.moovweb.com and checking both of those guides out. Go ahead.
Yes, Thank you for the thank you for the call out, and you know the demo I have prepared today is exactly around developers, so we'll be on developer.moovweb.com just shortly now. Well, when we do the demo. So the last section here is developer console, improvements and fixes. So there is a getting started section on how you deploy your first project. We have improved that. We have also exposed now the permalinks always, rather than just when they're not on the edge. So I'll show that off in the demo shortly. The Splishcat, we have the cache metrics. When you have multiple destinations, when you're doing split testing, or in general, when you have such a network shaping that you traffic shaping that you want to maybe permanently send part of the traffic into different destinations, the caching will have very different profiles, right? Like the different, these are, for all intents and purposes, these could be even completely different sites. So now when we are showing cache metrics, we split them by the destination so they don't mix up, and there's no, it's a cleaner picture of what each destination is doing. We have also improved the instructions for the path criteria in split testing. So in split testing, there are multiple criteria you can use, or no criteria, and just split completely the traffic, as I'll show later in the demo. This has just been improved for the path. Previously, we weren't enabling split testing in default environments. That was just a bug. We fixed that, and there was another minor issue around sorting the cache metrics route table. Finally, I want to call out that we have updated our IP whitelist for all projects. So if you have any kind of whitelisting issues, or you feel that you have a whitelisting issues, reach to our support, but also check the updated whitelist in your environment. We just added more whitelists. We didn't remove anything or update anything. So you should just be able to increment you just added whatever we incrementally added now, the new IPs, to add them to your firewall if you're using that sort of protection. And now I'm going to go to the demo part, which is the branching and preview workflow. So I'll show here the 3 different views of a single site. One is the actual site, which you can see here, developer.moovweb.com on the left. In the middle, we have the GitHub view, and this is our, because of the developer.moovweb.com documentation is open source, we can show that directly here in the GitHub. And finally, how does that look on the XDN side? So just give me a moment here.
Ivan, while you're transitioning,
okay.
I just want to call out 2 things. First, a reminder, you can put questions in the chat, and if we have time at the end, we'll try and address those. So please save those to the end. And then second, just to remind folks, what the motivation here was. Last week, we talked about some enhancements, and there was a question about, how everything fits together. And we realized we really hadn't shown people how you can tie your Git repository to your website to what you have in the XDN console. And we're going to be doing this demo using markdown files, because that's most of what the developer.moovweb.com is powered by. But imagine this is your React or Vue or Angular code. It's the same type of workflow. We just happen to be using content or text here, markdown, as an example that's easy to understand. Sorry, Ivan, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Sean. Sure. So let's start with, so again, 3 views, the actual site, and then, excuse me while I move here. So the next one is just how does that site look in GitHub, and finally, how does that site look from our point of view in the docs, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to edit here the index page just to show, sorry, wrong directory. So I'm going to edit an index page I'm going to just edit the tagline. So the tagline is dynamic websites. Oh, sorry, dynamic, and then I'll add, so here, dynamic websites, comma, and because I'm going to be developing split testing, I'm going to say something like with integrated split testing. No worries, we won't actually push this, so it's just for the demo purposes. So this is demo, do not merge, and I'm going to create a new branch. I'm going to call this one demo 2020-09-02, and I'm going to propose this change. So now what's going to happen is that this, as soon as I create the pull request, the GitHub action is going to kick off. So if I go here to the details, while this is starting up, I'll show you the actual code of the workflow file for this. And it's very simple, right? We extract the branch name, we do the standard caching of node modules so that the builds are faster. And then there's only essentially one deploy XDN related command. One is npm CI to run the continuous integration and just put everything from the package lock on the local node modules, and then run the deploy. And the interesting here, this internally just runs the XDN deploy. And here are the parameters. This is the branch name that we extracted, and we'll see that later how that's shown. And then there is a deploy token. Deploy token is a secret in the GitHub. So let me go there and show you the secrets in the GitHub. So here we have the XDN deploy token, and this secret actually can this deploy token is generated here in our settings for the site. If I go here, I can create. You can see there we have different clear cache GitHub actions, and then as we transition to the new repository, we created a new GitHub. We created a new deploy token. I could create now another deploy token. It would just, so for example, I can say demo 2020-09-02. If I create this token, it will show this token only once. I will never use this. I will delete this afterwards. But you can see now this deploy token. Actually, let me just delete it immediately so we don't run into any problems. And then that value I would put here in the secrets, right? And that would get kicked off here in the actions. Yeah, go ahead, Ishan.
Just to interrupt here, so folks should think of the deploy token like an API key. If you go back to that settings page
yes,
that you were just on.
It is.
Sorry, the one in the for the deploy command.
So here in the settings.
You go, yes. At the top, it shows the XDN deploy command. And above all those, it says XDN deploy, and you can see you can pass -- token.
Correct.
And then the other thing, if you don't mind bringing up another window with another tab with developer.moovweb.com, you should just show people, go to the deploying page, deploying section. And then at the very bottom, just so folks know where they can retrieve it, there is a sample GitHub action template that folks can leverage. Sorry, keep going.
Sure. So this is a GitHub actions. We can see it here. It's still running, and we can see that same deployment here at the same time. It just finished, right? So if we go here, this should now be wrapping up. It actually says deployed to XDN because this one is waiting for the XDN global edge pops to start serving this data. So now we have this deploy. We have this deployed. It is not deployed here to the developer, right? It is deployed to another environment, to the default environment. It's not a production environment. We don't want to push immediately to a production environment. And there are three important links here that I'm going to go through now. This is the commit link. So this is, you can see in your version control exactly what kicked off this change, right? So you can access that directly from here, from the commit. The next one is the permalink. Permalink is subdomain on XDN platform that will always, this will never change. This is unique to this build, to this branch, to this site, to this team. That will always show the way this project rendered and worked at the time of the deploy. So you can see here that here are my changes with integrated split testing. This goes directly to the servers. The permalinks go directly to the servers. They don't go through the caching layer. So the performance profile is a little bit different. It's going to be, you can expect it to be slower, but it's the same functionality. And then finally, there is the edge URL where you can see this again. This is another environment. This is not the production environment. And right now I'm just testing out this change. I can now go and copy this. I can send this one, for example, this I can send to QA and say, you know what, please test the build 340 on this see, you can see the branch here. The branch name here. So on this branch, that was the build 340 that I would like tested, that they can test exactly that. So going back here, now that we have this and we have sort of seen it render, we might want to have we could try to do a split testing on this. And so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to create
Ivan, before we jump into the split test, I just want to go back to that. Can you bring up that last deployment you did?
Yes.
And I just want to emphasize the punchline here. Basically, what we're saying is every time somebody does a code change in your code base, in the front end, you get immediately some very powerful things. You're able to preview that change without, everybody can preview that change with just a link. You can hand it to QA, you can hand it to marketing, you can hand it to your CEO. Everyone can see in progress work very easily. You actually have a permanent way to see that. So that means if you're going back and you're trying to figure out when did this regress, really useful for the QA team. This bug is new, when did this happen? You're trying to figure out and trying to debug it. You have a permanent way you can easily go back. And then finally, you actually can go see all the code changes that contributed to it with that commit URL. So I just want to emphasize the productivity benefit you get out of this. Now I'll let you continue with split testing.
Sure. These are the three links you sort of, you can test for the performance, you can test for the correctness always, and then you can just look at exactly what triggered this and at what moment. All right. So now let's imagine that we want to split test this, and the way we would do this is we would create a new environment. I'm going to call this pre-prod. I'm going to actually here, I have it, pre-prod demo 2020-09-02. I'm going to copy settings from the production environment. So this is just going to pull the settings. It won't automatically pull the build. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the environment. I'm going to go to the production. I'm going to find the current active build, and I'm going to promote that to this demo environment, right? I want to see how that works. So here now we are, while this is going on, we are now getting our first deploy into the environment, into this pre-prod demo environment. So in the meantime, let me go and open that and let me edit this environment. So I can edit this environment while this is going on. And even though it's, and you can see that now version 2 is a draft. We explained how to go into split testing, but actually this is going to change. You can, so this is a manual creating 2 routers in your code and then pushing that. But there is another way, and as soon as this build environment is building of the first environment is done, this is going to change, and it's going to show actually that we can split the tests between the different environments of the same site. So you can say, you know what, on my pre-prod, I wanted to. You could even say on pre-prod, I wanted to run for 99% or 50% of the traffic. I want to run this production, and the rest I wanted to run it as and some other environment like the test environment or staging environment or whatever it is, right? So you can see here, I'm still in the version 2 draft of this configuration of this new environment, so demo environment, and I'm going to add rules here. So I'm going to remove this. I'm going to say send, 50% here and 50% here. So I'm going to send the default being here. I'm going to send, this is the production because I deployed from production. So the default is going to show the same build, the same data as production. And the second thing I'm going to go and going to deploy, I'm going to split the test into default environment. So these two tests, so let me show that before we continue. Let me just go back here. All right, so now that the environment is deployed to the, throughout the edge, the global edge pops, it was probably just taking longer to reach my pop here. Now that the environment is deployed here, you can see that this is the old one without my edit, right? It doesn't have my edit. But now when I do the split testing and launch this, so let me activate this. So now once again, we are now deploying with this new change. We can watch that, we can observe that here. What's happening now is that we are now deploying it is the same build, but it's a different environment configuration. And your tests, whenever you change the test configuration, you redeploy and you sort of know when was each test configuration run. So if you ran at 1%, then 5%, then 10%, then 50%, you can tell because these are actually deployments that change the environment version and consequently change the deploy version underneath the hood. So we're now deploying to the environment. Environment is deployed now. So if I go here, so let me go back, let me close this. So this is the pre-prod environment. So let me show this. This is now, let me open an incognito and let me show the tools here. So when I hit this now, depending on we are now splitting 50-50. So let's take a look at the cookies. I landed on the old, here bucket cookie was one just by chance. The bucket cookies go from, the bucket cookie goes from 1 to 100. So we split your traffic, in increments of 1%. So this is the old, this is the part of that points to production. If I now go and change this to say 50, I should still see the production. I should still see the production experience. But now if I change to 51, I should actually see and here it is. This is the other experience. So now depending on randomness of this bucket, because we assign the bucket randomly whenever the first time the user visits your site, they will get a bucket from 1 to 100. And this is a stable, I should say, this is a stable number that doesn't change depending on your deploys. They will get either the A or B. Split testing usually it's sometimes called A/B testing. So they'll get either an A experience or B experience or even C and D or an A, E, and F. It doesn't matter to us. So if I go back to 50, where we are splitting, I see the old experience. If I go to, if I go to 100 as well, I will see the new experience. And with that, I'm wrapping up. That's it. I guess I just should go back for a moment here and say if I pull now this request, if I merge this, then it would kick off the same action, the same GitHub action, but it would deploy to production. And you can see here where when we account for that in the workflow file, we say what is the branch name. If it's master, then environment is production. Otherwise, the environment is the default. And these are the names of the environments in the XDN. All right, that's all I had, Ishan.
Okay, thank you, Ivan. We are actually over time, so we're going to skip questions for today. As always, you can reach out to us online through intercom in developer.moovweb.com in the bottom right, or you can email go@moovweb.com if you've got any questions. Thank you, and we'll talk to you all in 2 weeks.
Thank you.